academic than that, and you do that by pressing this button. But that's just something that I learned a few months ago, and I think that it looks more. Yeah, might help, you know. I was thinking what might help, this might help, because this would have helped me as well. It looks more mature. When? I've written down when I've done everything, so it might give you an idea. When I had to come up with a topic, I was still in Australia for my exchange. It was really difficult because I didn't want to go home and I didn't want to think of a topic. Just wanted to stay in Australia, which is pretty understandable, I guess. But I had to come up with a topic anyways, so I just wrote something down that interested me. I sent it to Gert-Jan Leeknecht, who was my, who I wanted to supervise me. That was the end of January. At the end of February, I went to Gert-Jan Leeknecht to talk about my topic. So that's approximately now, I guess, for you. Then the end of May, I had my first draft, which was approximately 20-30 pages. In June, I had my second draft, which was the 55 pages that I just showed. That was my final draft, and then I thought that I would have to change more things, but in the end, Gert-Jan Leeknecht gave me my grade already after a few days, which was pretty convenient. So in the end of June, everything was done. Pretty cool. What else? Does anyone know what movie this is? No, it's not related. This was just a cool background picture. I don't have anything to give away anyway, so it's not a good prize asking question. Do you guys have questions for that thesis? Because I have lots of answers in this book. I can, or if you ask everything for, but I think there's still more questions left, so I can try to. No. If anyone else knows, then it's really knowledgeable.
What is in the book? Is it like your notes or your
yeah,
structure, or?
Not really structure of today, as you might have noticed, but it's more. I wrote down. I just checked the emails that I got from Gert-Jan Leeknecht so that I could see when actually I did stuff, because it was already a year ago.
Oh, okay.
And here it says end of January, end of February.
Okay.
So that's essentially
It's
all.
not the Bible.
It's more
Although,
compact.
it is recommendable to carry around the notebook because you're going to get great ideas when you're on your bike, when you're in the shower, yeah. And then the best thing is to be able to run out of the shower and write something down. When you get home, you just pull it out of your purse and you write something down. Or what I do is I walk around with Post-it notes in my wallet. I walk around with Post-it notes in my wallet because if you're on the go, you do have your wallet with you. And then, you know, your whole room might be covered in Post-it notes at one point, like find one under your pillow, but yeah, it works.
I'd like to ask, do the supervisors expect us, as liberal arts students, to write a very specific bachelor thesis?
Your supervisors expect you to write a thesis. There's no such thing as a specific format for a thesis.
Because there are liberal arts students who have written a thesis which was rather broad, with like very liberal artsy.
Yeah.
Well, but there's liberal artsy and there's liberal arts mistakesy. And you don't want to be a mistake either way. So I think if you're doing it too broad, it's not about you being a liberal arts student, it's about you acknowledging that you're going about it the wrong way. Even when you have a paper for any course, think about it like that. Think about it as a paper for a law course or a paper for a business course, to which you can add a few things, but it's still a business paper or a law paper. So just, you know how to write a good paper. And if you're writing a paper that doesn't have any, goal in the end, then yeah, you did not write a good paper, ergo you did not write a good thesis.
Yeah, what's the question?
So in the schedule you mentioned, was there a time where you were stressed, or what was the most stressful period for you in writing your thoughts?
I think that the most stressful period for me was the start before I actually had a supervisor. Because I was, when you're abroad and it's very difficult to find someone. Also you have the liberal arts background, so you have all these different courses but not real in-depth knowledge on any of them. So really have to think, what do I want to do? There were so many topics that interest me and you have to choose one, which is of course very difficult. So that's why approach my supervisor, Gert-Jan Leeknecht, and kind of ask, what do you think is a good topic? Because I had an idea, but to make it more specific is very difficult.
But in the process of writing it yourself, you never really like had big struggles.
I didn't really,
Okay.
but that's maybe just personal one, because I'm not really a delaying person, procrastinating. I just, yeah. Oh, what I had struggles with is the structure. I changed my structure at least 6 times, and that was very difficult. So first I had 3 points, and I thought this is it, and then the supervisor said that it was horrible, so I had to change it. And that was really difficult for me, because you're just sitting behind your screen, and you think this is not going to work, I have to change everything. But then I just tried to go outside and walk in the sun, good weather for it now, and that sometimes helped to clear my mind and come up with a better structure.
Is there a specific structure that we need to do, that we need to have? Because my supervisor said, yeah, I'm from human resource management and they always use this structure, so it would be good if you also do that.
And it could help for...
Yeah,
for,
it's very specific and very
I
organized.
think if he gives you a specific structure, then you should just take it. That's
Okay.
it. I mean, you always try to be
Yeah, but then the
innovative
question
and
was,
original, but
the
sometimes-
question was, what is a good structure for liberal arts? Do you need to use another structure? And I was like,
Yeah,
no idea.
that makes sense, because it's also really dependent per major. If I mean,
Yeah.
we have a law background, and then it's different. And yeah, for the social sciences, someone had to write a literature review. One of my friends had to write a literature review, and I told her, you should add your opinion, you should add this and that, and she was saying, no, that's not what they asked from me.
Yeah.
And I was, yeah, lame, but it's just different. Yeah.
Could you elaborate on the literature review a little bit? But my supervisor also told me that was an option, but I'm not sure what exactly that means.
When you have a literature review, and we have some experience with that now, because for the research master we had to write 2. Essentially, you're just trying to find out, you have a topic, for instance, constitutional review, and just going to try to find everything that is written on the topic, the different opinions, the academic clashes between different writers. So, for instance, someone says this, and then the other author says this. It's not really about you so much, it's just about finding a topic, a more specific topic. So you have a broader topic, and you see what is written about it, you find the gaps in the literature, you find out what is the state of the art, as our professors call it with a fancy word. That's the literature review. So it's not so much about you, but just what is there, what is the...
You don't have to come with a hypothesis. You can just cover the field.
Yeah, and then it would help you to find a research question, which you end with a research question that, for instance, saying, I found out that there's not been written much about this, so a research question that would be really interesting is this, and how I could do that, but you're not actually going to do it, because the literature review is already finished, but how I could do it is this, and then you write about how you're could do it. But there are lots of examples of literature reviews online, and you have good books on it.
Did your lecture mean that you write your thesis as a literature review, or to do a literature review as part of your thesis?
No, you meant to write as literature review.
Yeah.
Oh, then it's a little different than actually
No.
writing a literature review. Well,
No, I think it's the same.
It is possible that's the difference between a bachelor's thesis and a master's thesis. So a literature review is enough in itself if you cover the grounds. But it's maybe not the most inspiring thing to do.
yeah.
It's more as a first step. So for instance, if you end with a literature review in your master, and if you want to do a PhD, then the literature review could be the basis of what you're going to do during your PhD.
Although,
I'm sorry.
personally, I'm a little confused, because what I understand as a literature review is what he said. So you summarize all you can find in an area. But I also understand that there's the methodology of desk review, which is that you have a question and you try to answer it with the existing literature, but you're not just covering the literature for the sake of covering the literature.
I
So-
don't think that that's what he used to do.
But that's why I'm not sure if they mean that or not.
By not inspiring, do you mean that it's boring work, or do you mean that it's not really, like you're sort of just moving?
I guess it's more fun to have an idea and to explain the idea and to see if it works, if it's correct. So you test your idea on a specific topic, and that's where a thesis becomes a real thesis, because you are trying to find whether what you thought is actually working or is correct.
Yeah, literature review is just not so much about you, but more about what is there.
Yeah.
Because for my thesis, I didn't conduct an empirical research. I did a descriptive project where I had an idea, but I didn't actually go to test it in the practical reality, but I saw if like conceptually it was applicable by doing a desk review, analyzing the literature, but it's not the same as a literature review, which is an unbiased just summary of this is all that's been written. So I'm not sure what your supervisor means. So you could ask.
Max, what's very important is ask your supervisor what he means,
Yeah.
or what she means. Because I did the same. My supervisor asked for theoretisch kader, and I mean I've had everything in English, so I had no idea what that meant. I just asked her, and she said, "Okay, here you go. It's like this." And then I thought, okay, now I can actually start, because now you can start a literature review, and you're like, okay, I'm just doing something, and then halfway through, your supervisor might say, no, this is not what I meant. So it's very important to ask for a clear idea.
Sorry, what's the question?
So did I understand correctly that basically your supervisor and faculty you write at overrules, or not overrules, but is the dominant power in what I've got to do? Like
Yeah,
word
definitely.
count, how
Well,
I
this-
do it, not word count.
You've seen the
Yes.
documentation that we have for the thesis. That's what you got from
Yeah.
Gaby.
But they're
That's
not-
basically the playing ground. And then there are traditions within different schools, and they do things a bit differently. But you have to keep in mind that this format that we've given you in that thesis form is what it should be like.
Obviously, but in the thesis form, for instance, it says, look at bachelor theses which have been done, and if you look at social sciences, almost nobody did actually research, whereas in our year now it is a must to do research, Ellen said,
Yeah.
which is not in the guidelines. So I
Yeah.
want to avoid that there's more musts which are not in the guidelines and we don't know. So for instance, is the word count completely up to the supervisor? For instance, my supervisor also just expected me to know how to write it, like format-wise. It was just like everybody does it.
Mhm.
And I don't know if everybody's liberal arts, everybody's sociology, and he was not willing to discuss this. He was like, this is something you should know and you should figure out with your...
And this is someone from
This would be sociology. I think now I should obey to the rules of sociology,
yeah.
but APA...
What?
Yeah, okay, APA, but like word length, journal
Yeah.
article, is it okay to use secondary sources or do you have to have primary sources, etc., you know?
I would follow your supervisor because they can differ in opinions of what is acceptable.
That's what I
and
meant, so
isn't.
basically my supervisor's the one who...
He's
says
the one
everything.
who is supervising, yeah,
Not, yeah, but also gives the rules.
and he gives the grade.
Or-
Any other questions? Now is the time. So much more we can help you.
What film is that?
It's down by law. It's this is Tom Waits again. I wanted to the red thread. Yeah. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which citation style did you use for the law major? Because I have
Ascola.
difficulty with APA.
Ascola is what you use. So then you have in APA you have everything between brackets,
Yeah.
and with Ascola you just use footnotes.
So you would recommend using Ascola instead of APA?
Yes, because APA is American Psychological Association, and that's where you, by author and year, you can identify the article, whereas treaties and law sources and codes have a different way of being written, and there is in fact no standard way of doing it. So you're just gonna have a really messy thing. So it's better to put it in a footnote so it doesn't interrupt the reader while you're going through it.
And if you have the website, you can also change. I mean, citation style Ascola, you can change it to APA. So that's
And which legal databases did you use?
how many databases?
Which?
Oh, which?
Well, a lot.
What legal databases? I mainly use the method where you have, so you find some good sources and then you look at the literature of those sources. For the most literature I found was, the database I used was Google Scholar and WorldCode. You have legal intelligence, but that's mainly for Dutch legal sources. So that can help.
Chester is like, but these are for law, so for social sciences you have other sources.
Yeah, I know you can find it on the website.
And I had 93 sources in the end, which was okay. Also websites and blogs and stuff.
May I ask you both, what grade did you have in the end?
I got an 8.5.
8.5.
Wow, that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Well,
It was perfectly doable, but it's just a lot of work. And sometimes it's stressful when you don't know where you're at. And
What I told my supervisor as well was, I want at least an 8. So if you feel that I'm not even reaching the 8, you need to keep pushing me, because although I want to give the best I can, I need to know if my best is still not at that bar that I placed for myself. And then that's when she was, okay, rewrite it. And then she was like, okay, if this was the bar you put for yourself, you can, she was like, at one point, she told me, you can hand it in now. But you told me to push you up until a certain level, because that's it. You can hand in a thesis and your supervisor may say like, well, it's satisfactory, and then you'll get a 6. And you're like, and if that's what you want, that's fine, but I was like, I wanted at least the 8. And then I told her, please push me if you see that I'm not reaching that minimum standard.
Usually thesis supervisors can tell you pretty much exactly what you need to do to improve a paper and get a better grade.
Exactly.
And about the meetings, I wanted to say that it also really depends on your supervisor, because my supervisor was just so busy, he said just take care of it yourself, and I think in the end we met once, or
Yeah, it depends.
once and a few emails. So yeah, really depends. Once or twice, but it was also it was a mutual arrangement. So I was also like, yeah, I can do this. Yes.
Zeros and law. I'm really worried about right now that I'm only finding American sources.